Hey, college and career success. Welcome to week 8. You made it. It is the last week of the semester, your last video. So yay. So this week officially runs from July 26th through the 30th. Now notice that the 30th is a Friday. The course closes on a Friday, which is why I do open week 8 early. So even though on the syllabus it says July 26th, I am opening this on July 23rd, which some of you already know because you're watching it a little early. So that's to allow any extra time you might need to complete the assignments, as well as maybe anyone who's just trying to wrap things up early. So just take advantage of that if you would like. Just a quick couple announcements or reminders before I jump into week 8. Week 1 was already reopened back in week 6. A couple of you took advantage of that. Week 2 was reopened at the end of week 7. So depending on when you're watching this video, you still may be able to go back and view and make up some things from week 2. Week 3 is going to reopen the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of week 8. So the 26th, 27th, 28th of July, week 3 will reopen. And there was a 30-point assignment in there on career services. So that can make a big difference in your grade if you happen to have missed that when it was open the first time. So even if you're getting week 8 done early, you could still log in next week and try to get week 3 made up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. Again, we're in week 8. Everything is due on Friday the 30th. That's the very last day this class will be open. If you finish early, I'll wrap up your grades and send you a quick email and say, hey, you're done. Here's your grade. But then as soon as Friday the 30th comes around, grades are closed. I will then email you either that night or the next morning to let you know what your final grade is. So week 7 looked a little different. You didn't have any discussion post. So week 8 actually comes back to kind of what you're used to. You have regular assignments. We have 2 chapters. You have 2 discussion forums. You have these surveys. So as a reminder, your discussion forums, your original response is due in both of them by Wednesday. And then you need to respond to 2 classmates by Friday. So again, the Friday is kind of out in caps there to let you know as a reminder again that the course closes on a Friday. So let's go ahead and get into the materials. So we are in chapter 11 and chapter 12. So I'll have the text up and running, but I'm actually just going to mostly rely on the slides for these chapters. So chapter 11 is about healthy lifestyle engagement, which I know as a college student, sometimes it's easy to lose track of taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally. And so this is kind of just that reminder to take stock of where you are in all these different areas of your life. So here's the quick little, pre and post survey, thinking about where are you in regards to a lot of this different wellness. And so this is the goal of the chapters, to talk about how you can improve and maintain physical health, emotional health, as well as like other factors in your life and how you relate with other people. So engaging in a healthy lifestyle, this is kind of like some scenarios and why this is so important. I think the first one was kind of interesting, that a 17-year-old boy lost his eyesight because of his diet. He was eating every day Pringles, French fries, sausage, deli ham, and white bread. So an interesting meal choice. And because of that, there was some deficiencies and he lost his optic nerves and things, so he was not able to see anymore. So I mean, that's obviously an extreme example, but it's an example of how important what we eat is. And it even goes on to say, I'm sure we've all heard that, you are what you eat, and our body really does feed off of obviously what we eat. And so we want to make sure that we are feeding it healthy foods so that we are replacing our nutrients and getting everything that we need. So how do we engage in a healthy lifestyle? Well, the reason we are unhealthy is because we don't have enough nutrients or we have too many toxins. So those are kind of the 2 big reasons why we might become unhealthy. What is healthy eating? Hydrating, fruits, vegetables, sleeping well enough, toxins. So all of these things need to be kind of considered. And if you struggle, and I'll be honest, I struggle with healthy eating sometimes. I have a sweet tooth, and so I have to really watch that. these are some really great resources if you're like me and you just need a little maybe creativity when it comes to cooking meals that are a little bit healthier, or tips on how to eat a little bit healthier. Even at my, stage in life, I feel like sometimes I need to visit these type of sites just to get different ideas, especially now with my kids. They're younger and trying to instill healthy lifestyle with them, with their eating. So those are just some different resources if you're interested in checking those out. That's kind of an interesting quote as well. When you eat junk food, you think junk thoughts, and there's a lot of like kind of phrases like that that go along that demonstrate the importance of filling your body with positive, healthy foods. So the chapter also talks about, knowing how to read a food label. You can see like it'll go into more depth here. And you can look at kind of more, if you're interested. Some of you might already know this, some of you might not care, but if you're interested, it really goes into detail on how to do this. It also talks about drinking, how you want to drink enough. Like I try to drink 80 to 100 ounces of water a day, and that's because I have kidney issues, and so I have to constantly be making sure that I have a lot of water, but I can't oversaturate myself, so to speak. So, the importance of drinking water, and sometimes it's a little thing, but it really does make a big difference in your overall health. Also, exercise. You're going to have a question on one of your assignments about the 3 different types of exercise. So it goes into more depth here, down here, about the 3 basic types: flexibility, strength, and cardiovascular. And all of those are important. Not just for weight loss, because a lot of people think, oh, you exercise for weight loss. Well, yes, but also for, energy and, reducing risks of certain things. So making sure that you know about the different types of exercise and how they can be beneficial to you. This is another one I think college students in particular struggle with: getting enough sleep. I don't know very many people who say they do actually sleep enough. So, and again, it's another one of those things where we just have to be aware of how are we treating our sleep schedule. So what is our energy like? How are we sleeping? Are we waking up really tired? And so sleep is such an important part of the academic process, because lack of sleep affects our mental performance. It affects our ability to concentrate, because if we have enough sleep, we're able to better remember and learn what is going on around us. And so this talks about like what happens if you don't get enough sleep. That alone maybe is a nice oh crap, I need to sleep more. Look at all of these negative effects that could happen if I'm not sleeping. And so how can I improve my sleep? One thing that I know I'm guilty of is I have screens on at night. I'll put a show on and I'll fall asleep to that. Where a lot of sleep researchers will say that's not a healthy way to fall asleep. So that's something that I have to work on. But these are some tips to improve your sleep. What if you're still struggling? If you've worked on those tips, here are some kind of, again, resources. So you can look into more detail here on this sleep section of the textbook. It goes, you can read more about what happens. This talks about crashes because of lack of sleep. And so a lot of those scary things can result in lack of sleep. So here is, if you struggle with that area, I encourage you to spend a little bit more time in that section in particular. Okay, so then we also want to talk about our emotional health. Again, another area that's really important as college students. Our emotional health is really important because we experience a lot of stress. And so we want to make sure that the amount of stress is not too negative, because stress in itself does not have to be a bad thing. If we are stressed about something, it's our body's way of letting us know that it's important to us. Now, if it goes into overdrive where it's causing us physical and mental ramifications, then yes, that is a bad sign. So signs of chronic stress, lots of headaches, or your irritability, you're having trouble falling asleep or staying awake. So those are things that are going to hopefully send a red flag up to you that you are stressed in a very negative way. And so how can we kind of start to reduce our stress? Well, we want to be mindful, making sure that we are in the moment. We're not focusing on what happened, what's going to happen. We're just right now thinking about the environment, our thoughts, our feelings, taking deep breaths, connecting to what's going on around us. Also, I know it might sound kind of silly, but just taking in stock of like what you're grateful for, because sometimes that alone can bring you a little bit of happiness, higher those levels, and allow you to stress a little bit. And so obviously closely related, like your mental health. It says 1 out of 4 adults experience a diagnosable mental health disorder in any given year. So what is mental health? It's your physiological and your psychological, mostly, well-being, because there are those connections between the body and the mind. And so that mental health is that psychological well-being that often can result in physiological effects. So here are some common mental health concerns: anxiety, eating, depression, suicidal. Anxiety in particular is what's really prevalent, I would say, on college campuses. I mean, I have an anxiety disorder that I have learned to cope with and deal with throughout the years. And I'm free to talk about that because I think it's important that we talk about how we feel mentally, because that's such a big, important area of our life. And so there's our textbook will talk about some additional resources. We have a counseling office on campus. So if we go to info for current students, and we're going to look for, real quickly, they changed it around a little bit on me. Here we go. Student support counseling services. So here is our counseling support offices. We have campus counselors at the different locations, so it's not just on main campus. We have lots of resources here, that you can click on. Are you dealing with mental health issues? Are you is there someone in your life who you're worried about suicide risk? So lots of different links and referrals and everything that the counseling office does on our campus in general, if you are looking to make an appointment with them. So I really encourage you, if you feel like you could benefit from them, check out that office. Our chapter will also talk about maintaining healthy relationships, whether it's with a partner, friends, whatever it might be, making sure that you are maintaining and respecting yourself. It will go into different areas, especially it's concerning because we're talking about like well-being, safety of our, just consciousness of our safety physically as well as in a relationship. And so what happens whenever our personal safety is maybe compromised. So we do have, and hopefully it's been a few weeks now, Title IX talked about a little bit about this, and knowing that there are places to report if you're a victim on campus, or even if you're not on campus, a victim. You can come to campus to talk. So our chapter will talk about kind of what to do if you're in that kind of situation, either as a victim or just an advocate of a victim that you may know. So I encourage you to kind of look into that. And again, check out our counseling services. We have a lot of resources here. Elizabeth is our main counselor. Again, though, we do have some on the downtown campus and the Akron campus as well. Okay? And then the kind of rethinking. So again, please make sure that you pay attention to any particular area that you feel like you can most benefit from. I know me personally, it's the stress. It's like that emotional and mental component, making sure that I am not overstressed, especially, coming up on the fall semester. It's a really stressful time for a lot of people, especially like if you're a parent, you've got kids going back to school, you're going back to school, work, all of that kind of things are going on. So this chapter really wants to turn it on inward and make sure that you're paying attention to yourself and all those different areas of your own health. All right. Then we have chapter 12. And chapter 12 to me is kind of like a backup, if you will, to a previous week, I believe week 3, your career services, that career services office assignment that you had, where you had to take the assessment, you had to look at your kind of different options on your career field. So chapter 12 really backs that up. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to remind you of some of those resources here on our campus. So here is the point. We're talking about career planning, what to do from here. There is the kind of steps to plan your career, if you will. Some of you are at different points. Again, I always, as I've said throughout this entire semester, just look at what you can most benefit from based on where you are. Some of you are CCP students, some of you are further along, so it just really depends on your situation. So how ready are you for your career? Maybe you've chosen your major, maybe you have not yet. You've researched your jobs, you know what to do. So you're all probably in different spots as it relates to that. So why do we worry about this? Because obviously, like, you're in college or in high school thinking about college because you want a career. And what is the difference between a job and a career? So a job is just something you do to pay the bills, right? Something that you do in exchange for money, where a career is more of an investment. It's long-term. It's hopefully something you have a passion for. It's what you really want to do kind of for the rest of your life. And it's more than just a paycheck, hopefully. So here are some career myths and realities. Some people think that because they get a college degree, they're going to get hired right away. And that is a myth, especially in certain economies. Certain years are better than others for this. There's one perfect job for you. I can tell you that's a myth right now. I went to 2 of my degrees, my bachelor and my master's degree, were both focused on middle childhood education. And I taught for several years in middle school thinking that that was it for me. Now, obviously, I'm still in education, but I have since learned that teaching at the collegiate level, that is my fit. And so sometimes it might be different pathways inside your field. So just kind of knowing that you might have different opportunities. You can't get a job with a certain major. Well, you don't know that for sure. Like, that's a myth. You should base your major on hot careers that will pay well. I mean, sure, great if money is the only thing that's important to you and your happiness isn't, so you want to be happy in your career. It's too late to change your career. Absolutely not. I've had students, my oldest student was 72. He was a wonderful man looking to kind of do something different with his life. So it's never too old to change your career. Myth, no one will hire you because you're just a student. Well, that's not true either. In some fields in particular, they want students right out of college, or even someone who's in their last year of college, because they want that kind of fresh perspective. And there are other people who want a little bit more experience under your belt. So just really kind of based on the career itself. So lots of myths. And so I challenge you to kind of look at those myths and see, do you believe any of those? How can you challenge them? So if you are toward the beginning of your path, so to speak, have you ever heard these statements like, you're so good at such and such, you should be in this case, math, you should be an accountant. You like kids, you should be a teacher. So those can be both helpful as well as harmful, because you can use that information how you will. And it does talk about this here in, our chapter. So it'll go into, why do you worry about this? There's the differences between the couple things. And here it goes into all these different myths, and it gives you the reality. So I know I talked a little bit about the reality for a couple of these, but if you want to check out how they relate to the myths, specifically in the text, go ahead and look at the myth, and then they give you the reality there for each one. So this really talks about, again, like kind of perceptions, and what do we do with those perceptions, or those statements when people say those things to us. All right, so planning our career. So what can we do while we're in college to help plan our career? So this is kind of like this cycle to think about. There are so many different things you need to do to plan your career. It's not just, oh, I like education, I'm going to be a teacher. There's a lot of things to take in consideration. You need to know about yourself. You need to explore the different options, try different things. Some students will change their majors a few times in college, and that's okay. It doesn't always have to be like the one major and you're done all the way through. It's okay to change your mind, but you want to, again, explore those different options. Part of that is learning about yourself, which back in the career services assignment, back in week 3, you did take a career match. You took that 60-question assessment, right? And you uploaded your results. So you've already done something like that, but it's always, helpful to maybe to take other kinds. And this gives some examples of some other assessments that you could take. Also, again, exploring different websites. And I think we talked a little bit about this. We're going to go there right now. The BLS, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, Bureau of Labor Statistics. So if you go to this site and you can search, I'll just plug that in since it's already there. You can search your potential career and click on it. And it's a really helpful site. It's going to give you a lot of good information, lots of tabs to talk to you about, like what they do, how much you can expect to get paid, what's the job outlook. Also in our career services, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of our, if you remember, we did talk about career coach with our career services section here and here. Keep it consistent. I have to also spell it right. In here in our career coach, it gives a lot of this similar information. So exploring this kind of information is helpful to know about it before you go into the field, or even if you're already there. Some informal assessments, just kind of talking to people who know you really well, reflecting. This is all like if you're still deciding on your major, or maybe if you're just questioning your decision to begin with, you know, because this is really one of the most important decisions you'll make, because it sets you up for your career path and hopefully something that you'll do for a long time after you leave your institution. So really just making sure that you're exploring different careers and knowing the difference between jobs and careers, and maybe how even the job that you have now or a job that you can get can help build toward your career. So this will go a little bit more in depth about all those differences and how they can work together, gaining workplace knowledge and understanding how a workplace works, and how you can build that workplace knowledge. So this is going to talk about like networking and how to really understand, you know, getting in the door. So again, back here, I'm going to go back to Stark's, the homepage here, and talk to you a little bit about our, even though you're familiar with it, our career services. Hopefully, and then maybe this will just be our refresher. So career services can help build on a lot of these things that we've talked about, you know, talking about, are you career ready? How do you go to a job fair and start networking? How do you get a resume ready and polished? So even if you have a resume already, taking it to career services and have them look at it and see, you know, how could I fix this up, or what can I do to make this better? So it's a really helpful office on campus. Whether you're a CCP student, a current student, or an alumni, they're here to help you. You know, when it's time for your interview, how can I get some interview tips? So this office is so helpful for a lot of those reasons. Also, it talks about in here gaining workplace knowledge along with utilizing career services, joining clubs on campus. So again, I think we talked about this one other time, but I'll just refresh your memory. If you go to current students and you go down to student clubs, there's a list of all of our student organizations here on campus. And some of these are for fun, you know, Radio Society. Some of them are related to your career, you know, some such as like medical laboratory techs. So getting involved with a club or organization on campus allows you to build your resume as well as make those connections and help with that networking. So I encourage you, if you haven't already looked at this, to really take a look through it and see, is there anything, now that we're coming back to campus in the fall a little bit more permanently than we have been since COVID started, you know, getting involved on campus. And maybe that just means attending a meeting or sending an email or attending an event, whatever that might be. So again, just taking advantage of all of these resources, taking advantage of joining a club, of looking at the career services, of maybe getting an internship, volunteering, all of these things that are going to help you network, help you build your knowledge, help you build your resume. Also making sure that you're spending time kind of freshening up your transferable skills. So transferable skills, sometimes called soft skills, are those things that no matter what field you're in, they're going to transfer. So being able to problem solve, critically think, communicate, be flexible, work in teams, all of those. And this is going to, you know, go into depth here. In this section, it's going to talk about, again, getting to know yourself, exploring. I'm going to keep scrolling. This is a long section. Taking advantage of all those resources, some of which I just kind of pulled up. This is going to talk about the importance of volunteering in particular, you know, or clubs, or those, you know, because I know sometimes you're like, I'm so busy, I don't have time to volunteer, I don't have time to join a club. Well, I mean, you might be surprised that it's less commitment than you think, or to really understand the importance and the value that those things really can do for you. How internships can be valuable to you, and all of these different experiential learning. So if you're not taking an internship, is there something in your field that you can shadow, like a job shadow, or do some kind of apprenticeship or service learning? So this goes into all those different ways you can do that. And this is where our transferable skills comes in, the importance of transferable skills. How can you get your transferable skills kind of freshened up? Our campus, again, during a regular year, has workshops. This past year of COVID, they've been online, so I'm not sure if they'll offer like a mixture of those. Let's say that you struggle with time management. We do have workshops that talk about that. So first of all, knowing your transferable skills, your strengths, your struggles, and how you can brush up on those is helpful. Some of it comes from just life experience as well. This next section talks about, again, kind of getting things ready, your resume, which is what I pointed out our career services office can do, cleaning up your social media and online activity, because employers will look at that information. Even if it's private, they can kind of access what you've posted, what you've been tagged in. I've sat on interview committees before at the college, and we do that. So you want to make sure that your online presence is professional. So this talks again about resumes, your digital kind of profiles, making sure that everything is coming across as professional. If you have LinkedIn, kind of keeping it up to date. It's not like an actual resume, but it is a way to connect. Professional networking is not the same as social media. Some people get confused, like if they're on social media, that is networking. Well, yeah, that's social networking, but it's not professional networking. There is an overlap. Sometimes you can use social media as a way to professionally network. For instance, I have a good friend who's a photographer, and so she uses social media. She uses Instagram and, all those kind of things to display her work. And so she uses that as a way to professionally network, but it's not always the same thing. Okay. So you want to make sure that you are, again, presenting yourself in a way that is professional, because even some of you are way too young to even know this. Like even MySpace years ago, even though it's not around anymore, it's still traceable. People can still find that if they're savvy enough. They can find that information. And so you just want to make sure you're being mindful of that, especially those of you who are still fairly young and maybe you're not as worried about what you post on social media. It can come back to kind of bite you. As we've seen, I think, maybe famously in a lot of actors and politicians, they've tweeted something or they posted something years ago, and then all of a sudden it's brought back up and they're dealing with those consequences now. So you want to make sure that you're mindful of that. Some of you might have to build a portfolio depending on the field that you're in. So our chapter does go into tips on how to build your portfolio. And then that preparing to network, which I mentioned, that phrase, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, which is true. I mean, you have to know what you're doing, but it's also like, do you know anyone that can help you open some doors or make those connections, which goes back to maybe joining a club or an organization or taking advantage of the resources at Career Services so that you can become better at those opportunities, that you can network and get to know people. So this really goes into networking because it is such an important part of the career process, is making sure that you are making connections and people know who you are. Also kind of asking for letters of recommendation and knowing the right people to ask. I had a student recently ask me for a letter of recommendation, which I don't mind doing, but I had this student almost 3 years ago. And so, I literally have hundreds and hundreds of students a year, sometimes in a semester, depending on how busy it is. So I really had to kind of go back in my memory and pull up some things about the class that the student was in. And so while I was able to do the recommendation, it was tricky for me. So you want to make sure that you're asking someone who knows you well. You want to make sure that you approach them in a way that's appropriate. Follow up with a thank you. So the chapter starts to kind of wind up here talking about, just making sure that you're preparing for success, but also being open to opportunities as they come along, and knowing that kind of to be able to fulfill your purpose. If you've ever seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is kind of like the original version. And this is the one that, as it relates to the career, you get a job, you get a career, and hopefully you find your purpose in life. And again, all of this is more in depth in all of our chapters. Please feel free to like read more, focus in on what you really need to look on based on where you are in your current path, but also check out our resources at the college, the career services, the student organizations. All of those will help you as well. All right. So after you've spent some time in the chapter 11 and chapter 12 materials, it is time to talk about your week 8, your final week 8 assignments. All right, so here's your chapter 11 survey. That's your, again, pre and post to see how well you did at the beginning, and then at the end, it's also there for chapter 12. So let's talk about your chapter 11 discussion. So remember, chapter 11 was about taking care of yourself, self-care, healthy, different types of health. It says, are your eating and sleeping habits currently affecting your ability to have a super successful college experience? Describe the health and wellness changes a commitment to eating clean and sleeping well will bring about and how you will benefit in the short and long term. So again, just talk about kind of your current approach or your current way that you sleep and you eat, and how can you change any of those? If they're poor right now, are they affecting you in such a negative way that you really do need to make a change? So that's your original post. Remember, around 150 words or more. Original response by Wednesday for part of your week 8 attendance. Respond to 2 classmates by Friday. Remember, the week closes on a Friday. All right, your chapter 11 assignment. This is going to focus on making and breaking habits. So this is a Word document. So we're going to click on it. There we go. And it's going to open up into a Word document. Now, because we're in week 8, you do not have to do the one part of it, but I'll explain this here in a second. This was originally designed to be like a tracking assignment. We're in week 8, so I'm not going to have you track it, obviously, because after this week, we're done. But I encourage you to track it even after the class is over. So what you're going to do is you're going to think about in the coming 4 weeks, what healthy habit can you make? What unhealthy habit can you break? So think about that in week 1, what can you do? In week 2, and it takes longer than this 1 week to make and break a habit. I think they say around 21 days is what it really takes to either make or break a habit. So these are just, like starting points. You're going to start making a habit in this week and breaking a habit and so on. So you're going to complete this little table and then answer these 5 questions. What reminders will you use to make or break your habit? For me, my habit, I sometimes have to put Post-it notes up. That reminds me of different things. What do you plan to do if you forget about it? How would you feel if you're able to make or break the habit you listed for good? How would your life be different? How would you feel if you are not able to make or break the habits? And what obstacles might prevent you from making and breaking your habits? Okay, so you want to fill out this table and answer those questions, and then not required, but recommended, track it. In the next several weeks before fall semester starts, maybe track and see how well you were able to do. So when you're done with that, you will just click in there and upload it and submit it, and that is due on Friday. All right. Chapter 11, quiz and Dropbox. Like all of your other quizzes, please remember your responses need to be in 2 to 5 complete sentences. Some people, as we're getting a little closer to the semester, we're only writing 1 sentence or so. So this talks about question 1. What would you include if you were making a flyer about the importance of sleep? What is your stress relief routine? What's worked? Maybe what could you incorporate based on the strategies our chapter talked about? What mental health disorder do you think is the most common among college students, and why do you think so? Provide evidence from textbook and personal experience. You don't have to give me like some nitty-gritty personal details, but just in general, maybe what you've observed from other students, or if you want to share your personal experience, you're welcome to. What are the 3 types of exercise mentioned in this chapter? We talked about that real briefly. It's kind of bullet point listed in our slides, but then they go into more detail in the chapter as well. Remember flexibility, cardiovascular, so look at that. And then question 5, how do you recognize when someone is using drugs or alcohol? What can you do if it's becoming problematic? Because that relates back again to self-care and in making sure that our emotional, mental, physical health is up to par. So when you're done with that, you'll submit that in your Chapter 11 Dropbox. All right, Chapter 12. Here is your Chapter 12 discussion. What are the trends in your career? What jobs will be available and how much will they pay? What skills are most needed in the job market now? Okay, so how do you get this information? Well, handy dandy BLS. You want to go on back to this that I showed you a little bit ago, because this has a link that says Job Outlook. And it says in the next 10 years, this is 2019 to 2029, it says how much it's going to grow. It also tells you how much you can expect to be paid. Also, career coach. So you can go in here and you can look to see the live job postings. You can look at the wages. So those are two really great resources that you can kind of use as a quick reference to answer that question. What are the trends? Is it a growing field? Is it not growing field? How many jobs are going to be available? What's the average pay? What skills are needed? So, how to become one. This goes into all of that. Over here talks about the tasks, the attainment, skills. So all of that is in either Career Coach or the BLS. You can find that information. And then that's what you're going to submit for your Chapter 12 discussion by Wednesday, respond to 2 classmates by Friday. Chapter 12 assignment, what I love to do, this one's an interesting assignment. So it says, in the column below, list at least 15 things. I know that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't if you think about it for a couple of minutes. 15 things you love to do. Doesn't matter how small or weird or minute, whatever. So they give an example. Maybe you love to take naps. Who doesn't love a good nap? How can you make that into a profession? Because this is a little bit of creative thinking as well. And how can others benefit from you doing it? So again, like maybe you love to cook. Can you make a living out of that? Well, yeah, you can become a chef. How can others? They can enjoy delicious food. So this is just kind of different ways to talk about what you love to do and how that could become a potential career. Now, a lot of you are already declared in your major, so this is just going to be like a fun activity. Some of you who are not declared in your major, this is kind of a way to brainstorm and think about it, incorporating a passion into a potential career path. So when you're done with that, again, you can click right in there, you'll save it and put it in that Dropbox. And then finally, your Chapter 12 quiz. So you'll again open it up, make sure you're responding to all questions in 2 to 5 sentences. So this talks about how you can gain what you've done in college to assist in employment. Campus resources and activities could you use to support your career exploration? List 2 resources or activities. Well, I've already talked about quite a few of them. I'm so sorry, excuse me. Career services. You can also go back to that list of student organizations and look and see, is there an organization or 2 on here that you think could be beneficial to you? Okay, let me pull that up again, sorry. So that's what you can refer back to, like career services or campus organizations for that. How can you kind of have a networking positive experience? Remember, Chapter 12 talked a lot about networking. What do you do before, after the event? This is going to talk about those transferable skills, critical thinking, teamwork, professionalism, communication. Give an example of a strength of one of those. How did you develop this? What is a weakness in one of those areas? How can you improve upon it? And then finally, what's your opinion of volunteering in college? When you're done with that, submit it in the Dropbox. All right, so quick reminder review here. You have by Friday, July 30th to submit your Chapter 11 assignment, Chapter 11 quiz, Chapter 12 assignment, Chapter 12 quiz. By Wednesday, you need to post your original response in the Chapter 11 and Chapter 12 discussion. Respond to 2 classmates by Friday. Remember, week 8 is open early, but it closes on Friday the 30th. Week 3 is also reopening Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of week 8 for anyone to make up work they may have missed earlier in the semester. So with that being said, thank you all for a great summer semester. I appreciated you all being my guinea pigs with this new format of the class. Like I said at the beginning, this is a new textbook. So all of the assignments were new. Everything was new. So this has given me a good learning experience to see what needs to be tweaked so I can give some feedback to my coordinator for the fall. If you ever need anything during your time here at the college, please feel free to reach out and let me know. And if you're on campus in the fall, feel free to stop by and say hi. Have a great rest of the summer.